meaningful movers. Welcome back to Moving with Meaning, the podcast where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. I know they say time moves fast, but I'm really looking back over the course of my life and I'm just in awe. It's really been a minute. If I was to laser beam these last 5 years though, so much has happened both professionally and personally. I think I want to break that down, specifically the professional part. We've hit on a lot of personal topics and I need a break. I don't want y'all to get the wrong impression of me, like I'm just moping around here and stuff. Nah, I'm not like that, and it's not like that. You know how we do. Let's reveal the word for today's episode. And here we go. The word of the day is, drumroll please, transition. To put it simply, a period or process of change. Honestly, I think we go into every new year looking to change something. Sometimes these changes don't happen until later, but we at least start. And also, there are times where the change happens whether we are ready or not. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about these last 5 years, starting with 2018, because a lot has happened. And I want to revisit that experience and celebrate it. This may take a few episodes because so much has happened, and how it happened was just amazing and fast and explosive. Lastly, these episodes are to give you a picture of my qualifications as a career and mental health coach, as well as my promotion for my fantasy book, Balance of Power, Book 1 in the Chosen Path series. These are all inspirations in my book, which is powerful because it's so common and relatable. This year, I am doubling down on my marketing and networking. It's about that time. All right, let's get on into this. Okay, so you know how people have outstayed their welcome? I think that's the phrase. Anyway, this is me at the consulting firm I was in. Not in the way that I was being pushed out, quite the opposite. I was really on the uptick. Okay, and what does that mean? As I have said previously, I am in the IT industry. And in 2018, I was entering my 7th year in this firm, in consulting in general. Something to note about IT is that it is very male-dominated. Now, as a Black female, that has its perks, though not without the drawbacks. If I am a high performer, I'm going to stand out. Now, with that comes, haters. I wish that wasn't the case, but you instantly become a threat. To some, not all, just some. But those some people are in high places, or those who want your place, they know people. I made it a mission to surround myself with people of all races that had my back, and so I thought. At this time, I was managing teams, like in some cases, the other leaders were reaching out to me to help with their teams or sell accounts. And this is not a dig, because I truly believe when you need help, you ask for it. But you also credit the person for that, right? This help entails me attending additional meetings to provide advice and support because it was obvious that there was a gap due to the teams and budget being spread thin. Also, my name would get passed around and I would be asked to help mentor other data architects or modelers that were on active projects. I made that sound real easy, didn't I? So let me back up. To do what I was talking about, I had to create a personal brand first. So, quick back in time sequence here. I had just had my last son, so 9 years ago from now. I was coming off maternity leave and I was looking for my next project. I remember reaching out to a few people, and one of them was like, you know, you should connect with this guy who leads a community of practice and holds calls every Friday. There are a bunch of leads there looking for people. I said, all right, bet. So she sent me an invite, and I went to a few of these calls, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. I got inspired because the particular niche I am in wasn't being presented at all. I wasn't surprised because I have had to change how I referred to myself because nobody knew what a data architect was. Yes, professionals and leaders, like top high leaders in the IT industry, did not know what data architects do. You've probably heard of data security, cybersecurity, data quality, or hell, even artificial intelligence. But data architecture was a mystery. So much so, people were ignoring it and its necessity. So I went to research in the company's communities of practice to see if there was anything out there for data architecture first. And there was, but it had long been abandoned. I thought, okay, here is where I make my stand. You have to understand, I was willing to go and reignite a failed attempt by someone else who was still in the company, mind you, and make it into something. Yep, sure did. Not many people would do that, but I really had a passion for that particular skill set, and I felt it didn't get enough publicity. I mean, it wasn't if people were avoiding referring to themselves that way, right? So I asked this colleague who was leading these calls what I need to do to have my own calls. And he was like, you just start having them. Create a standing meeting and invite folks. He even said that he would let me present on one of his Friday calls as like a launch so that folks from his call could join mine if they were interested. Now you see right there, he didn't view me as a threat. He was willing to give me space on his platform, which could potentially draw attendees from his own meeting to mine. Now, of course, you could say, well, he probably didn't see me as a threat anyway, and that's why he let me present. Fair point. Fair point. But let me keep explaining before you draw that conclusion, because yes, at first I felt that way. So, in order to do this, I was committing to a few things. One, I was committing to hosting these calls every other Friday. That's a big thing because typically on Fridays, consultants tend to decompress from the work during the week. I mean, we worked. Two, I was going to have to rely on other fellow colleagues to do guest appearances and present material. This turned out to be much easier than I thought because the hardest part about it was conjuring the courage to just email these people. I told y'all I'm an introvert, but I knew I needed help to generate this material, which leads me into the last one, 3, which is I was committing to producing material. This meant I needed to have various perspectives of the data architecture practice that I was presenting, but also keep it engaging and informative. I knew this was adding more to my plate, but at the time, I had the time, and it gave me something to do. I don't think I really expected much from it. I just wanted to inform people and give them a place of refuge, I suppose. I only knew a handful of people with my background, so I anticipated the community, if you will, to be small and low impact. That was all wrong. When I first announced that this spin-off community was coming, I had like over 20 odd people just from the call instant message or email me to be on that meeting. So that was positive. Then I asked them to forward the invite to whoever they knew would be interested because You know the rule. When you invite people to a party, only a percentage of the invite would actually show up. So I needed a huge invite pool so that when you take away that percentage piece, still a large amount would show. Well, that inaugural meeting, a large percentage actually showed up, enough for it to produce optics. Even the guy who let me announce it on his meeting came. After that, each meeting gained more and more traction. And I was like, OMG, is this really happening? Look, I got so much attention that the original guy instant messaged me and said, "Hey, Krystal, I've been getting pings from people that they are in both our meetings complaining that they can't attend both of the calls but want to. Would you be willing to combine your meeting with mine? And I give you a Friday of every month for you to do your presentation dedicated to you." This was like 5 months after uh, the me going off on my own and hosting these calls. So first of all, I was speechless because I generated enough energy and enthusiasm that out of demand, my audience went to this guy on my behalf and without me knowing. Second, thank goodness, because I was getting concerned about the time and effort it was taking for me to keep up with the material at the frequency I was going. So I became part of this huge data community and the lead for one of their pillars. Because remember, there was no one there who was spearheading this particular practice, this particular discipline of data architecture. So it had to be someone. There was no other practice in the company where this existed. This was a global company, okay? And it did not exist anywhere. So I'm really breaking through some things here, okay? And I was really at a point where I knew I had a hill to climb. I didn't know along the way that these things were going to happen that would kind of help, get me up the hill faster, but it certainly did. Didn't expect that. And as time went on, I was asked to develop presentation and training material. They started including me on all kinds of larger programs. So naturally, I gained a lot of press coverage. From being a high performer to leading a COP to being a facilitator, career coach, and eventually leading a product development program. Now, back to the future, though still the past, 2018. It was about this time that I started to see the politics come into play, which is a very dirty game. This is where my stress level really rose. So it wasn't the work that got me, which there was a lot of. It was the mental strain of the betrayal and manipulation and the way people just behaved. It really was and still is an adult version of Mean Girls. See me? I don't play like that. I'm not going to go back and forth with you. I'm not going to fight for more of a presence because I already have it if you feel the need to bully me. Mostly, what I noticed happening was I was being exploited for my expertise. So get this. I would go in and repair the company's reputation by implementing protocols and identifying gaps in the various team members, whether it was skill-based or functional. Okay, and I would get them basically to be high-functioning teams. So you have to be high-functioning before you can start performing. Okay? Then after I do that, and my project lead felt that things are good, which they weren't, because he's depending on my leadership impression and the principles and practices that I instilled in the team to be carried on without my presence, which that isn't the case. You still need the lead, the same lead that is implementing these best practices. You need that same leader to continue to enforce them, because a new lead could completely go and say, I don't want to do that, and change things. You don't know what would happen when you change leadership once you have things going good, right? Anyway, he would replace me with someone he wanted to take the credit. And I'm cool with that because typically they still give me a good review in exchange, which means I still get my bonus. So I wasn't overly concerned about that, right? You want to trade me off and do whatever else, and you're gonna give me a good review, which means I'm still gonna bank some money at the end of the year. So I'm okay with that. That's I got experience out of it. I won something, so I wasn't super big on the optics as much as the people that were doing this and connecting with their people, and kind of one of those things where, oh, I'm gonna take my people with me, so I'm gonna have somebody do the hard work, and then I'm gonna bring you in to just coast off and take the credit. I that wasn't a concern for me, as much so that it is a concern from other people, others who this has happened with, and I've tried to mentor and coach with. I can see that it impacted them emotionally. It was a huge kick to the gut for them. And I would typically try to work with them on how that is, but to also kind of how to really mentally compartmentalize that, but also validate their feelings, because that is a valid feeling. When you are betrayed, naturally you do feel that way. It was just at that point in time, I had a particular level of emotional intelligence in the corporate arena to not give a shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's just different personalities and evolution, if you will. You have been in that space for so long and you've seen it happen to other people. So it's kind of like, I'm no different. It will happen to me. I just have to wait my turn. But it got out of hand the following year in 2019 when this happened again. And the project lead was different. He badmouthed me in front of the overall account lead. Okay. I stood my ground though and said, whoa, if you have someone in mind for this role, just say that. I will leave. You're not going to get no fight from me on that. Just say, like, look, I have someone that I want to transition into this role and roll you off, because I think whatever, you make up whatever you want, but there's a way to go about doing that. But don't discredit all of the good work I did. And then proceeded to lay out all of the stuff I did in 5 weeks that he couldn't do or accomplish in the year that he was there. I even called him out on things that he did that were unprofessional, and I had the emails to prove it. That's why I say email, document, and I will probably do a podcast or a YouTube episode actually in my life coaching series to talk a little bit about how to handle documentations as a safeguard for you. Okay. And that'll come later. So, I mean, like, as soon as I said that, and was like, oh, I got these emails to prove that he did all these things, that particular account lead who he was complaining to me about stopped me right there and looked at project lead and asked him, is that true? When I say homeboy just sat there, open mouth and silent. I mean, he couldn't admit fault in front of this guy, but he also couldn't back out of his complaint against me, because then I would still be on the project. So he just didn't say anything. So anyway, when he did that, I kind of said, it doesn't matter whether he's going to cop to it or not. You want the emails, I will send it to you, just so you know the caliber of integrity of this individual that you're working with. I said, but I will be glad to leave. You're not going to get a fight out of me to say I'm not fighting to stay here. I feel like I have done what I needed to do. He wants to put somebody else in place that he is more comfortable to work with and carry that work on. More power to it. I have plenty of other opportunities out there that have been reaching out to me. I don't need the job, okay? I don't need the program. It's not that serious. We could have ended this in a much more amicable format, professional way. So if anything, I think all three of us here should take something from this. And I think that really impressed the account manager on there, because he called me after things had kind of calmed down and I had removed myself, and he apologized. And he also said that he would make sure that that gentleman wouldn't give me a bad review. Like, he was like, if he gives you a bad review, I will take the next steps to reprimand him, to remove that, and I will at least safeguard you from that perspective. Okay. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, because don't mess with my money. But I was also thinking, well, if you felt this way, why didn't you speak up and fight for fair treatment? It had nothing to do with taking sides. It had to do with, hey, you need to mentor this guy because you're telling me that you agree he was inappropriate. Okay, you need to talk to him about this. And you didn't have to address this in front of me or anything like that, but the way that you approached that conversation there, it was like you were immediately attacking me. And now you want to do this behind the scenes stuff of, oh, no, 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 you're right kind of thing. So all this behind the scenes stuff was just happening too much. You literally feel like you are selling out. There was another ethical issue that happened just before this, which resulted in me switching to a different person to represent me during annual reviews. Bad decision there. That one, though. Look, you know how there is this harassment training that you have to do to complete every year for the companies to be compliant in their training, and they have these different reenactments of various forms of harassment. When I say every one of those happened on that project, I'm serious. And they were bold with it too. This is also when I found out that HR is really there to protect the company from you, the employee. Even though they spout about no retaliation, and if you see it, say something, do something, and all of that. I did, and others did, and we were vilified for it. This was my first time really experiencing harassment, but also seeing how companies put so much more effort to back the people who are wrong, contribute the least amount of value, and make an example to others. What will happen if you two speak up? I tell you what, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing because I did nothing wrong. I know my value, and by the end of this 5-year recap, I will have expressed that. So, stick with me across these episodes because I feel like I owe you the deep dive of the transition that I went through on these. So it may take a couple to get through this 5-year journey. Now, while I was going through all of that, I was trying to contact my sponsor. And I'm trying to not use the same words so that I don't get sued for defamation or anything. But in consulting firms, you don't really report to anyone. You truly are the master of your fate. This sponsor is supposed to advise you, counsel you, and represent you in annual reviews for promotions, raises, and other program nominations. I'm glad to say I had a really good one. I would hear horror stories from others who were extremely disappointed in theirs, and I'm like, mine got my back. So, shout out to my sponsor. He knows who he is. But for some reason, when I was reaching out to him at this time, he was like MIA. I felt like he ghosted me. Then, when he did respond, he was like, I'm on vacation out of the country for the summer. So I guess I just panicked because I went straight to my regional lead just to ask for some help in this unethical situation, this harassment. This was, like I told you, I have never seen every type of harassment happen in one place and then how people were really just trying to sweep it under the rug. I really needed to get like the lead, the CEO, like all these people involved. So I went to her to ask for help. And she offered me to submit for her to be my sponsor. I did. And this is when I joined the folks who I just mentioned above that would complain about their sponsors not being good or having their best interests in mind. I mean, when I started having issues with her, I asked around and folks started telling me, oh yeah, you should have asked me. And I would have told you to stay away from her. Multiple people. So I'm thinking, well, hell, how did I not know about this person? And again, I surrounded myself with people who had my back, and they were good people. So there wasn't a lot of backbiting happening. I wonder if that's an old term. Anyway, meaning I was in a professional circle where we didn't sit around talking about people. We were about that business. Well, too late, the damage had been done, and I just went about job searching. Now, here's the thing employers should take note of: don't give your employees a reason to go looking. It's the same thing we say to people who are concerned about their partner's fidelity and then they go out, start sleuthing. If you go looking for something, you are going to find it. Now, it's the same thing for employees who feel undervalued, bored, or whatever. If you go looking for opportunity, you will find it. And sure enough, I did. Plenty. Some things I had to consider. 1. My salary. I had to be either equal or more than what I was making. I may have rushed the gun on switching sponsors. I was not about to do that when it came to my money. My family wasn't going to go without because of this foolishness. 2. Insurance. I typically have had the jobs with the better insurance, but even more so now because my husband had branched out on his own and he wasn't looking back. That doesn't mean to say he couldn't have covered us, just that his work had interruptions because he was building his brand. So I wanted him to focus on that because he gave me the space and time at this company to build mine. And 3, consulting versus full time. I'm not sure if I mentioned this on my previous episodes, but my husband and I have an engineering and IT consulting business. And so I was like, okay, I can either go to a full time or I can start working through my own business. Let me say this. Once you have been in consulting and move around from one project and client to another, the growth and change is exponential. So if I was to choose a full time, I would have to accept that the pace was going to slow down drastically, like quite a bit. And at this point, I was not up for that. So I went the consulting route, though not with my company at first because I needed the insurance and we hadn't set up insurance on our company yet. So things were a little complicated. I would still be able to do consulting, just I would have to go the W-2 route where they offered you insurance. So guess what? I found this role that checked all these boxes. I'm talking badass and I'm talking fast. Like it was just, opportunity was just right there. It was just coming at you. So this was the first time that I had really thought, let me give this owning your own consulting business a go. Now, if this company hadn't outgrown its welcome with me, I probably would have still been there working 14-hour days and doing umpteen tasks throughout the week. But more on that in a later episode as you follow the series. So that was all she wrote. I submitted my resignation and never looked back. Like never. I mean, sure, I had people that asked me to come back while others knew that I was better off going my own way. Now, it wasn't always like this. The first 6 years of my time there was great, and I learned a lot. I mean, I don't ever have to go back to work for anyone with all the experience I've gained from them. So much that I'm overqualified to be an analyst or a developer. So most of my clients position me in management and strategic roles. And if I am coding, I get paid for that. So that's great because you get to name your price. Back to change and how it can be unexpected. Sometimes we stay in companies and positions longer than we anticipate, or accept the ill treatment because we've gotten stagnant. Or maybe we were just afraid for something different, new, exciting. I truly thought I was going to retire from there, but that wasn't in the cards. Or better, what God had planned for me. When my story began, it was 2018, and I left in the latter part of 2019. It took me nearly 2 years of bad treatment before I washed my hands of that place. I'm the lucky one because I know people who stick around jobs like that. You know, you have been on the other side of the phone listening to your family and friends talk about their crazy job and all that drama. I know I have. And I remember thinking, why they ain't left yet? I know I would have. Well, it sure took me 2 good years before I did. But whether it's 6 months or 10 years, look for the opportunity and embrace change. This isn't a call for all employees everywhere to start looking. Don't go all crazy. I'm just saying you don't need to accept bad leadership or poor company values. There is plenty of work out there, and sometimes if you wait too long to make the move, something is going to make that decision for you. All I'm saying is be ready. So we had some golden nuggets, and I think we should add some ketchup just to recap. 1. Watch for the signs that you have outgrown your current state. Consider the value you bring and if you are being treated as such. If not, evaluate what value are they adding to you. 2. Pace yourself. Once you have made the decision to leave, let that be a time of reflection so that your next steps will be illuminated and deliberate. 3. Document. You never know when you will need those receipts. 4. Build your personal brand. This requires commitment and a marketing plan. Determine what you are passionate about and stand on it. And 5, embrace change. That's where the experience and exposure is. Trust. The opportunities are there and boundless. That's the episode today. Are you feeling like you are in a state of transition? Perhaps where you are in your career has outgrown its stay. Make sure you position yourself to be in a place where you are appreciated and valued. Even if you have gone through a season of change, I still would like to know how you took the time to evaluate entering into the position you deserve. I love it all, and so will someone else. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Me in the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at Moving With Meaning 82 and my Facebook page, Moving With Meaning. Also connect with me on LinkedIn. I have my YouTube channel up with tons of creative work, and watch for me on TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. Links are in the episode. Alrighty. I'm Krystal on Moving With Me in the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.